Hey guys, welcome to another 99Bitcoins video, and today I'm really excited to tell you about the launch of our new Bitcoin Faucet WordPress plugin. This means that from now on, if you know how to operate a WordPress website, you can just install our plugin and have your very own faucet in something like under 4 minutes. You don't have to deal with installing some complicated scripts like you had to do up until now with Faucetbox, dealing with databases and stuff like that. It's all straight out of the box. Now, before I begin this tutorial to explain to you how to operate this faucet, I have to give you a small warning. This faucet is still in its beta stages. I'm not maintaining it as much or giving it direct support like I do in other stuff. And this means that you might find some bugs in it. If you do find some bugs or some glitches in it, I'd appreciate if you can send me back an email or just write it in the comment section below so I'll know to fix it as soon as possible, and then we kind of can all profit from it. And the end product of your faucet basically is going to look something like what Millie, my own Bitcoin faucet, looks right now. So you'll be able to create a faucet that has some sort of text up here, a captcha box here from Solve Media. And the reason I'm using Solve Media is because they'll also give you some form of revenue, and I also written about that in my previous blog post. And then an address bar and a claim button down here. We'll talk about later on, the claim button is actually dynamic in order to kind of prevent bots, but we'll get to this in a second. So let's get started. I'll show you exactly how to install the faucet. First thing you have to do is install a WordPress CMS, content management system. Now, if you don't know what WordPress is, then you probably should take a few steps back and start learning about what WordPress is. But I assume that most of the people who are watching this video know what WordPress is and how to operate at least on a basic level. If you don't know how to install WordPress, I'm gonna put another video on the page that's going to explain how to set up your own WordPress blog in like something like 4 minutes or so. So once you have the WordPress set up, you're basically going to reach your WordPress dashboard, which looks something like the page you have here before you. What you want to do is, first of all, download the plugin from the page, and the link to the plugin is below this video. And then go to Plugins, Add New, and you're going to upload this plugin up here and just choose the file of the plugin to upload. So I'm choosing the file, I'm clicking on Install, and now basically it's going to install the WordPress Faucet plugin. And once it's finished installing, I'm going to activate the plugin, and then I'm going to go with you through each step of the way so you can understand how to configure your faucet. This is a pretty complex faucet. So now it's finished installing, I'm going to click Activate Plugin. And you're going to see here on the left, I have BTC Faucet. So let's go here and start with the first tab, which is General. So like I said, this faucet is still in beta. There's probably going to be some bugs or glitches. And also I didn't put too much time on the back end, on the user interface, so things might not be built in a very logical order or stuff like that, but everything should be pretty self-explanatory. But nonetheless, let's go over this right now. So the first thing you have here is referral commissions in percent. So you can decide you're going to have kind of like a ref link, exactly like you have with Faucetbox links, so people can drive traffic to your faucet. You can decide how much percent you're going to get from new traffic that comes through the faucet. Second thing here is payout timer. Basically in seconds, how much time do you want the people to have to wait between claims. Payment threshold. This means what's the minimum amount that you're going to send out payment to someone. For example, in Millie, it's 13,000 Satoshis. It's the same in Faucetbox faucets as well. Some faucets have a higher threshold, like 20,000 Satoshis or whatever you see fit. I'm going to explain later on how the payment system works here, because it does work through Faucetbox, but it's a bit more advanced, so you won't lose money when using the Faucetbox system. I'll explain this in a second. Reset seniority after days. I'm not going to talk about this. I'll leave it till later on. 24-hour submit limitation. Basically, you can limit the number of times someone can claim in 24 hours. For example, let's say you don't want anybody. Let's say you have a very fast-paying faucet. For example, every 5 minutes, like Millie, every 5 minutes you can claim. So I don't want people claiming more than 120 times in 24 hours because they're going to drain my faucet. So I put here, for example, 120, and this means that if someone goes over 120 claims in 24 hours, he's going to get blocked. He won't be able to claim anymore. Ban address above submit limitation. So if somebody goes over this, do I want to ban his address completely or just limit him from claiming any more than the 120 claims. Now we'll talk in a second also about the whole ban system here. It's very advanced. You can do a lot of stuff that you couldn't do with faucets before, and we'll get to this in a second. Broadcasting ban, just leave this unchecked. Trust me, you don't want to deal with this. I'm not going to talk about this right now. Avoid Opera Turbo users. Again, it's a bit more advanced. Not talking about this in this video. Let's talk about payouts right now. So this is basically how you set up your payout scheme. So for example, I can say 100 Satoshis has a probability of 50%. And then I have 200 Satoshis with a probability of 25%. And I have 500 Satoshis with a probability of 5%. And 1,000 Satoshis, probability of 1%. It doesn't even matter if you don't reach 100% here, because what it's going to do is going to calculate it kind of accordingly. So if the total here is, for example, we have 75 and it's 81, then it's going to 100% is going to have the probability of 50 divided by 81, if you catch my drift. Import probability, not talking about this in this video. Also, it's if you want to have like really complex probability metrics, you can import this from Excel, but again, not relevant for someone who's just starting out. Seniority. So I implemented in Milli something new called seniority rewards. Basically, it means that if someone is using the faucet for a long time, then you can start getting some sort of bonus reward. For example, in Milli, if somebody uses the faucet for over 30 days, he gets a 10% bonus on all of his claims. If he uses it more than 60 days, he gets a 13% bonus, and so on and so forth. So you can decide if you want to add a seniority or not in your faucet. For example, you can say 30 days, I want a seniority of let's say 8%, and then I want a seniority after 60 days, seniority of 12% bonus. And this is something nice that you can kind of reward your loyal users using the same address, and it actually really like it because it gives them much more earnings. Down here below is the Solve Media CAPTCHA. I'm not going to talk about how to install this because I talked about it in a different video. Basically, you go to Solve Media, you open an account, and you get these keys here, the private key, the public key, and the hash, and you just copy paste them inside here. I am going to say that when you go to Solve Media, you want to make sure that you're set to revenue and not to protection. This way you're going to get some money from people solving CAPTCHAs as well. It's a pretty nice amount. And the last thing you have to know is URLs. Wherever you put your faucet page, your main faucet page, you have to put the URL here, and the check address page, which we'll get to in a second, you have to put the URL here. Now, once you did this, you just click Save Changes, and basically you can set up your faucet. Now, if you don't remember how to set up your faucet, you go here down here to How to Use, and we'll give you the shortcodes for the faucet. So you can see this is the BTC faucet form. This is basically where your faucet is going to go on the page. It can be on the home page or any internal page you want. And then if you want to add text, then you have shortcodes that you can add text in. Now, make sure to insert the text shortcodes before the faucet form shortcode, or else it won't work. So for example, here's how my faucet looks right now. This is kind of the form. It's pretty ugly because I haven't formatted it. And here you have kind of, this is the header text, this is the after form text, this is the after CAPTCHA text. Here you can see the CAPTCHA, this is where people enter their Bitcoin address, this is the claim button, this is the after address text, and so on and so forth. And now I can kind of start designing this. So this whole form here is basically, this whole form here is basically through this shortcode. And all of the text that you saw on the page is using these shortcodes, but they're implemented before the form shortcode. So just so you'll understand how it looks, I'll show you kind of the code. So you'll have, first of all, the text shortcodes. Here they are here. You see these are the text shortcodes, and only after I have these do I have the shortcode of the faucet. So this is kind of the end result of what you have, and you can start, designing it whichever way you want. It's much easier than designing a faucet box faucet. You can put ads here, you can put ads on the sidebar, and so on. On a different page, you want to have the check address shortcode. This is the check BTC faucet address. And this is so that people can kind of check what's going on with their balance, because the balance is saved inside your server on your database. It's not sent to Faucetbox immediately after they claim. So even though the claims are going to be paid out through Faucetbox, we're only going to send them whenever we decide to send them. It could be once a week, it could be each day. I'll get to this in a second. So when you put the when you put this shortcode BTC faucet address check on any page, the page is going to look something like this. Check your Bitcoin address status, and this is basically what's going to show up on the page. They can enter the Bitcoin address, and once they click check, some stats will show up. Let me show you an example of some live stats from Millie. So this is an example from an address from Millie. You can see I enter this address, and here I can see basically the direct claims. I don't have any, by the way, referral earnings at the moment enabled for users on Millie. So you're only going to see direct claims and seniority claims. So the grayed out here are direct. The green down here are seniority claims. You can see here he has a 13% seniority payout on all direct payouts. And the black one here is the total number of claims he has. And down here, you can see how much he got paid, total unpaid indirect payouts. Here's some transaction history from the recent payouts that I already sent him. And here is all of his payout history. And you can also load more, basically loading this infinitely as back as you want to kind of check stats. So this is the check address page. You have to put this on some other page, and then make sure to go back to the general tabs we just talked about down here and enter the URL of that page. Don't forget to enter these two URLs, or else things might not work. So this was kind of maybe the longest part, the general part. Now let's go over some other parts. So here under claims, this is kind of a general idea of what's going on with the faucet at the moment. You can see the total claims for the last 30 days. Unpaid claims, meaning people who were unpaid because they didn't go over the threshold, or maybe the payment wasn't made yet. Unpaid above, sorry, this is all of the unpaid claims, and this is only unpaid above threshold. So this is basically how much you're going to need to pay once you click the make payment button. And once you click the make payment button, all of this that's shown here, unpaid above threshold, is going to be transferred here to scheduled payment amount. Now let me talk a bit about how payment is done in this faucet. It's done through Faucetbox, but it's a bit more smart than the normal Faucetbox faucet. Why is this? Whenever someone claims on your faucet, the balance is basically stored on the database on your server. Now you can define a threshold that I said before. Let's say your threshold is, for example, 20,000 Satoshis. So when you click make payment, what the server does is takes all of the address that needs to get paid over 20,000 Satoshis and sends only these addresses to Faucetbox to be paid. Now on Faucetbox, the threshold is by default 13,000. So basically they're going to go into the queue immediately, and Faucetbox will take probably up to 48 hours to pay these users. I forgot to say one more thing, that when you click the make payment, all of the addresses need to get paid, go into your database, and then every 20 minutes, basically your server will check if there's any addresses that need to be sent to Faucetbox. So for example, let's say there are 5 addresses that are above the threshold. You click the make payment, the server detects them, puts them in some sort of a queue, and after around 20 minutes, he takes these 5 addresses and then sends them to Faucetbox. After another 20 minutes, he again checks to look if there's other addresses need to be sent to Faucetbox, but he can't find any, so he just moves on, and so on and so forth. So just for some cases, it could be that you have so many addresses that need to be paid that you won't be able to send them all at the same time. So what the server is going to do is going to kind of break them down into groups of 250 addresses. So the first 250 addresses are going to be sent. 20 minutes after that, he's going to take the next 250 addresses. 20 minutes after that, the next one, and until he finishes all of the addresses. So just keep that in mind, so that whenever you click make payment, it's not instantaneously that these addresses are being sent to Faucetbox. You need to wait at least 20 minutes to see the first group once they are sent to Faucetbox. However, all of this method is much more profitable for you than just using Faucetbox, and now let me explain why. Usually what would happen is that Faucetbox would remove balance from your account for everyone who claims, even though some people don't reach the threshold and Faucetbox never even pays them. In this method, you basically make sure that you only send Faucetbox the users that actually need to get paid, and you're not getting your balance deducted from users who don't need to get paid. So you're actually saving money by using this method. For example, on Millie, I do this once a week. The threshold is 13,000. Once a week, I just click the make payment and I send the payment to my users. Specifically on Millie, I don't use Faucetbox. I pay through my own hosted server, but this is a bit more complex. I'm not gonna talk about this in this video. Next tab is payouts, basically showing you a history of payouts. This is a new faucet, so there's no history of payouts. The log tab shows you logs of the server. I'm gonna skip the protection tab. I'm gonna get back to this in a second. Let's go to the wallet tab. So this is basically where you set up the wallet for your faucet. Now, as I said, you can either do a self-hosted wallet, which is here. I'm not gonna talk about this. This is a more complex version. I am gonna talk about this Faucetbox wallet here. So you need to set up a Faucetbox account and get your API key for that Faucetbox account. If you don't know how to do that, go to the previous video I had of how to set up a Faucetbox faucet. You'll see it over there. I just don't want to waste time. This is already a very long video. Once you have an API key, you just put it in here and you click save changes, and now you're all set up for your payments. Just make sure to fund your Faucetbox account. You see, for example, I now have a Faucetbox account which is active with 99,000 Satoshis. So make sure you have funds in your Faucetbox accounts, because if you don't, the payments won't go through. Under tools, you can basically reset seniority for a specific address. You can move balance from one Bitcoin address to the other. I don't use that a lot because people don't really have, for some example, some people come to the faucet and say, hey, I just transferred to another address, can you please move my balance? I don't like doing that because people can't actually prove to me that they actually own that new balance, and people can kind of start scamming you. So I just tell, as a general rule, I don't transfer balance between addresses, but if you do need to transfer balances between addresses on the faucet, use this tool. Statistics shows you specific statistics on your faucet, top 20 claims of refers, top 20 claims of directs, and so on and so forth. It might come in handy in order to kind of detect scammers. Some scammers use a lot of referral addresses, and then you can kind of check specifically who are the top 20 claims from refers from the last 24 hours. Last but definitely not least, probably the strongest suit of this WordPress faucet is the protection tab. The protection tabs allows you to ban Bitcoin addresses and also IP ranges if you find someone who's abusing your faucet. You have here the option to add Bitcoin address to whitelist, basically allowing to ignore any bans or any limits and just allow this address to claim as many times as they want. You can add a Bitcoin address to the blacklist. Basically, blacklisting a Bitcoin address won't let it claim. It will show a message of wrong CAPTCHA when they try to claim. So it won't say, hey, you're banned. It will just show them wrong CAPTCHA. And of course, whenever you ban or whitelist anything, you can add a reason, so you'll remember later on why did you ban it. You can add an IP address or a network to the blacklist, basically adding an IP range. So if you want to add a range, just enter the first IP address and the last IP address, and anything inside this range will be banned. You can whitelist. That's basically it. You can't whitelist an IP range. And down here, you can see all of the whitelist Bitcoin addresses, all the blacklist Bitcoin addresses, and all the blacklist IP addresses. If you want to search for a specific Bitcoin address, if it's blacklisted or not, just enter it here. For example, I enter this, I click search, and if something comes up, I will see it. You see, it has no data because it's not blacklisted. But if I were to blacklist this, then it will come up here, and I can see the reason and the date, and I'll have some sort of actions. The action I'm going to have is basically to unban this address. So, and the last tab here is how to use, basically showing you the shortcodes, and that's it. So I know this was a pretty long video, but I'm pretty excited about this. Now everyone can start their own WordPress faucet using this WordPress faucet plugin. I remind you again, this is still in beta. There's probably going to be bugs and glitches. I just put this out and I haven't even tested it other than myself. So a lot of other people are probably going to have some other issues with it. I urge you to send over the issues you have, and I'll try to take care of them as soon as possible, so that we all can kind of benefit from this. If you did enjoy this video, if you do enjoy the faucet, I'd really appreciate if you link back so other people can kind of use this faucet as well and build their own faucets. On how to kind of generate revenue from the faucets and how to generate traffic for the faucets, I highly suggest you go to 99Bitcoins and read the previous posts about what I did with Millie. It has a lot of information about generating revenue and traffic, and I'll leave the links for these also below the video. So I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy your faucet, and good luck, and I'll see you in the next one.